Have you ever noticed that some people seem to move through life with a quiet kind of power? They don't panic when things go wrong. They don't lose themselves when people reject them. They don't crumble under pressure. While everyone else is reacting to life, they seem to be directing it. And what if I told you that the difference between them and most people is not intelligence, talent, money, or luck? It's something far simpler. It's what happens in the first few minutes after they wake up. Right now, somewhere in the world, a person is waking up and immediately grabbing their phone. Within seconds, they are flooded with bad news, social media comparisons, other people's opinions, and endless distractions. Before their feet even touch the floor, their mind belongs to the world. But somewhere else, another person is waking up differently. Before checking messages, before opening social media, before reacting to life, they take control of their mind. They remember who they are. They remember what matters. They decide how they will respond to whatever the day brings. By the end of the year, those two people may look completely different. One becomes stronger, the other becomes weaker. One becomes disciplined, the other becomes distracted. One becomes calm, the other becomes anxious, and it all starts with a decision made in the morning. Today, I want to share a message that has the power to change the direction of your entire life if you truly listen to it. Not tomorrow, not next month, today. Because the truth is that most people don't lose control of their lives in one dramatic moment. They lose it slowly. A little distraction here, a little procrastination there, a little compromise, a little self-doubt, a little surrender. Day after day, until one morning they wake up and realize they are living a life they never intended to create. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that, when you arise in the morning, remind yourself that you have work to do as a human being. Think about that. The Roman emperor, who commanded one of the greatest empires in history, still needed to remind himself every morning to get out of bed and do what was necessary. Why? Because discipline is not something you achieve once. It is something you choose again and again, every single day. Imagine a man named David. David is not extraordinary. He doesn't have 1 million followers. He isn't famous. He isn't wealthy. He's just an ordinary person trying to improve his life. For years, David felt stuck. He blamed circumstances. He blamed bad luck. He blamed difficult people. He blamed the economy. He blamed everything except the one thing he could actually control. His own mind. Every morning started the same way. Alarm, phone, social media, stress, rush, reaction. By the time he reached work, he was already mentally exhausted. He spent years waiting for motivation to arrive. It never did. Then one morning, something happened. Nothing dramatic, no miracle, no life-changing opportunity, no secret success formula. He simply asked himself a question. What if the problem isn't my life? What if the problem is the way I start my day? That question changed everything. Instead of reaching for his phone, he sat in silence. Instead of consuming information, he reflected. Instead of reacting, he prepared. For the first time in years, he felt like he was steering the ship instead of being dragged by the waves. Most people underestimate the importance of mornings because they misunderstand how the mind works. Your morning is not just the beginning of your day, it is the foundation of your identity. Every morning you cast a vote for the person you are becoming. Every choice matters. When you choose discipline, you strengthen discipline. When you choose distraction, you strengthen distraction. When you choose courage, you strengthen courage. When you choose weakness, you strengthen weakness. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Epictetus taught that events themselves are not what disturb us. It is our judgments about those events. Think about how powerful that idea is. Most people wake up and immediately begin judging. This is going to be a terrible day. I don't feel motivated. My problems are too big. Life is unfair. Nothing ever changes. And then they wonder why their lives remain the same. But imagine waking up differently. Imagine beginning the day with this thought. Today, I may face obstacles. People may disappoint me. Plans may fail. Unexpected problems may appear. But none of these things have the power to control my character. Only I have that power. Immediately you become stronger. Immediately you become harder to break. Immediately you stop being a victim of circumstances. This is where real power begins, not in your bank account, not in your status, not in other people's approval, but in your ability to govern yourself. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. If you cannot control yourself in the morning, you will struggle to control yourself throughout the day. The battle is won before the world even notices it has begun. The greatest victories are often invisible. No applause, no recognition, no audience. Just a person choosing discipline when nobody is watching. Just a person refusing to surrender to laziness. Just a person deciding to become stronger than yesterday. Seneca once warned that while we are waiting for life, life passes. Read that again. While we are waiting for life, life passes. How many people are waiting right now, waiting to feel ready, waiting for confidence, waiting for motivation, waiting for permission, waiting for the perfect opportunity, waiting for someday, and while they wait, years disappear, dreams disappear, potential disappears. The Stoics would tell you something very different. Start now, not because conditions are perfect, but because conditions will never be perfect. The morning gives you a unique opportunity, a chance to begin again, a chance to reclaim your attention, a chance to remember what matters, a chance to become the architect of your own life. Most people spend their lives trying to control things outside themselves. The economy, politics, other people's opinions, the future, the past. But the Stoics focused on one thing above all else. What is within my control right now? That question can transform your entire existence, because once you stop fighting battles you cannot win, you finally have energy for the battles that matter. And the first battle of every day takes place in your own mind. The voice that says, stay in bed. The voice that says, do it tomorrow. The voice that says you're not good enough. The voice that says you'll never change. That voice has defeated more dreams than failure ever could. But here's what most people don't realize. That voice is not you. It is merely a thought, and thoughts only become powerful when you obey them. The strongest people in the world are not those who never hear negative thoughts. They are the people who refuse to become servants to them. Tomorrow morning, before you touch your phone, before you check messages, before you allow the world to enter your mind, remember this. You have been given another day, another chance, another opportunity to become the person you were meant to be. Do not waste it, because what I'm about to reveal next may completely change the way you think about discipline, self-respect, and personal power forever. And once you understand it, you'll never look at your mornings the same way again. There is a hidden cost to living on autopilot that most people never recognize until years have passed. It doesn't appear on a bank statement. It doesn't show up in a medical report. You can't measure it with numbers, yet it may be the most expensive thing you will ever lose. It is the loss of your potential. Think about that for a moment. Somewhere inside you exists a stronger version of yourself, a calmer version, a more disciplined version, a more confident version, a version that keeps promises, a version that follows through, a version that doesn't quit every time life becomes uncomfortable. The tragedy is not that this version of you doesn't exist. The tragedy is that most people never meet that person. They spend their entire lives trapped inside habits that keep them small. And every morning those habits quietly tighten their grip. Imagine two men standing at the edge of a forest. Both want to reach the mountain on the other side. Both have the same destination. Both have similar abilities. But one man takes a step toward the mountain every day. The other spends years talking about the mountain, planning for the mountain, dreaming about the mountain, complaining about the mountain. Guess which one arrives? Success has never belonged to those who know the most. It belongs to those who consistently act. This is why Stoicism is not merely a philosophy, it is a philosophy of action. Marcus Aurelius never wrote his reflections so people could admire them. He wrote them to remind himself how to live. Every day he faced wars, political enemies, betrayal, disease, uncertainty, yet he continued to ask a simple question: what is the right thing to do now? Not next year, not next month, now. That question can completely change your life, because most suffering comes from carrying burdens that belong to tomorrow. People wake up worried about problems that haven't happened, arguments that haven't occurred, failures that haven't arrived, rejections that exist only in imagination. And then they wonder why anxiety controls them. The Stoics understood something modern psychology continues to confirm. The human mind often creates more suffering than reality itself. Think about how many times you've feared something that never happened, how many sleepless nights were wasted on imaginary disasters, how many opportunities were missed because fear convinced you not to try, how many relationships were damaged because assumptions replaced facts. Your mind can be your greatest servant or your worst tyrant. The difference depends on whether you consciously direct it. A few years ago, a successful entrepreneur was asked what changed his life more than any business strategy. People expected him to mention investing, leadership, marketing, sales. Instead, he said something unexpected. I learned to stop negotiating with myself. That answer surprised everyone. But then he explained every morning he used to negotiate. Maybe I'll exercise tomorrow. Maybe I'll start next week. Maybe I'll work on my goals later. Maybe today isn't the right day. Maybe I deserve a break. Maybe one more hour won't matter. Those negotiations cost him years, because every time he negotiated with discipline, discipline lost. Then one day he made a decision. When the alarm rings, get up. When it's time to work, work. When it's time to exercise, exercise. No debate, no discussion, no emotional vote, just action. His life changed rapidly, not because he became more talented, but because he became more consistent. Most people believe discipline feels good. It doesn't, at least not in the beginning. Discipline often feels uncomfortable, awkward, boring, difficult. The gym feels difficult. The early morning feels difficult. The hard conversation feels difficult. The commitment feels difficult. But so does regret. So does failure. So does living beneath your potential. The question is not whether life will be hard. The question is which hard you choose. This is where many people get trapped. They spend their lives avoiding temporary discomfort only to create permanent disappointment. They avoid the workout and gain weakness. They avoid the challenge and remain stuck. They avoid the risk and lose the opportunity. They avoid the truth and remain trapped in illusion. The Stoics taught that discomfort is not the enemy. Avoiding growth is. Every morning gives you an opportunity to practice this principle. The moment you don't feel like getting up, the moment you don't feel like working, the moment you don't feel like improving yourself. That moment is not your enemy. That moment is your training ground, because every act of discipline strengthens something invisible. Your identity. Most people focus on outcomes. The Stoics focused on character. Outcomes are often uncertain. Character is always within your control. You may not control whether a business succeeds, but you control whether you show up and give your best effort. You may not control whether someone appreciates you, but you control how you treat them. You may not control what happens today, but you control who you become because of it. That distinction changes everything. Imagine waking up tomorrow and viewing every challenge differently. Traffic becomes patience training. Criticism becomes emotional control training. Failure becomes resilience training. Uncertainty becomes courage training. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin asking, what is this teaching me? Suddenly, life stops feeling like punishment. It becomes preparation. And that's exactly how the Stoics viewed adversity, not as proof that life was unfair, but as an opportunity to develop strength. One of the greatest misconceptions about successful people is that they possess some secret advantage. Most don't. What they possess is a different relationship with discomfort. While others run from it, they lean into it. While others complain about it, they learn from it. While others surrender to it, they grow through it. The morning is where that relationship is built. Every day offers a choice, comfort or growth, excuses or responsibility, reaction or control, weakness or strength, and every choice compounds over time. One disciplined morning seems insignificant. 10 disciplined mornings feel encouraging. 100 disciplined mornings become transformational. 1,000 disciplined mornings create a completely different life. This is why your future is not created in dramatic moments. It is created in ordinary mornings. The mornings nobody sees. The mornings nobody applauds. The mornings when your character is quietly being formed. Most people underestimate the power of repetition. They want immediate results. Immediate confidence, immediate success, immediate transformation. But nature doesn't work that way. A tree grows slowly, a mountain forms slowly, a powerful mind develops slowly. The process feels invisible until one day the results become impossible to ignore. That's how real change happens, not through one perfect day, but through thousands of small victories. Every morning you choose who wins, the person you are today, or the person you could become. And here's the fascinating part. The strongest version of yourself is not created when life is easy. It is revealed when life becomes difficult. Anyone can feel motivated on a good day. Anyone can feel confident when everything works out. Anyone can feel strong when circumstances are favorable. But what happens when life punches back? What happens when people disappoint you? What happens when plans collapse? What happens when loneliness appears? What happens when nobody believes in you? That is where true character emerges. Epictetus taught that circumstances do not make the man. They reveal him. Think about how powerful that truth is. Life is constantly revealing who we are. Every challenge is a mirror. Every obstacle is a test. Every morning is an opportunity to improve the person reflected back at us. Most people spend years trying to impress others. The Stoics spent years trying to master themselves. And the second path always leads to greater freedom. Because when your confidence depends on other people, you become their prisoner. When your peace depends on circumstances, you become their prisoner. When your happiness depends on outcomes, you become their prisoner. But when your strength comes from within, something extraordinary happens. You become difficult to control, difficult to manipulate, difficult to break, and that kind of power cannot be taken away by failure, rejection, criticism, or loss. The question is not whether you have that strength inside you. You do. The question is whether you are willing to develop it. Because the next lesson may be the most important lesson of all. It explains why some people completely transform their lives, while others remain trapped in the same patterns for decades. And once you understand it, you will never look at your excuses the same way again. The difference between people who transform their lives and people who stay stuck is rarely intelligence, it is rarely talent, it is rarely opportunity. More often than not, it comes down to a single factor: ownership. The moment a person takes complete ownership of their life, everything begins to change. Not because their circumstances immediately improve, not because the world suddenly becomes fair, but because they stop waiting for someone else to save them. This is one of the hardest truths a human being can accept. No one is coming. No one is coming to force you to become disciplined. No one is coming to make you confident. No one is coming to make your dreams happen. No one is coming to rescue your future. And strangely enough, this realization is not depressing. It is liberating. Because if no one is coming, then the power has been in your hands all along. Many people spend years trapped in a cycle of blame. They blame their parents, they blame society, they blame bad luck, they blame their past, they blame difficult circumstances. And while some of those things may have genuinely hurt them, blame has never built a better future. Responsibility does. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. Every day he faced problems that would overwhelm most people. Yet he repeatedly reminded himself to focus on what he could control, not because it was easy, but because it was effective. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with rocks. Each rock represents something outside your control: other people's opinions, past mistakes, future uncertainties, regrets, resentments, old betrayals. The longer you carry them, the heavier they become. Many people spend decades carrying emotional weight they were never meant to carry. Then they wonder why life feels exhausting. The Stoic approach is simple. Put the rocks down, not because they never happened, not because they weren't painful, but because carrying them changes nothing. You cannot rewrite yesterday. You cannot control tomorrow. You only possess this moment, this breath, this choice, this action, and that is enough. One of the most powerful morning questions you can ever ask yourself is this: what deserves my energy? Today, think about how different your life would become if you asked that question every morning. Instead of giving energy to worry, you give energy to action. Instead of giving energy to resentment, you give energy to growth. Instead of giving energy to fear, you give energy to courage. Your attention is your most valuable resource. Whatever receives your attention grows stronger. If you constantly focus on problems, problems grow. If you constantly focus on excuses, excuses grow. If you constantly focus on possibilities, possibilities grow. This is not motivational fantasy. It is psychological reality. Your mind follows what you repeatedly feed it. Most people unknowingly train themselves for negativity. They wake up searching for reasons to be stressed, searching for reasons to complain, searching for reasons to feel defeated, and eventually their minds become experts at finding exactly that. But imagine reversing the process. Imagine training your mind to search for opportunities, lessons, solutions, strength, growth. Gradually, your entire perception of life changes. The world itself has not changed. You have, and when you change, everything around you begins to look different. There is a story often associated with Stoic thinking. A man loses his horse. His neighbors say, "What terrible luck." The man replies, "Maybe." A few days later, the horse returns with several wild horses. The neighbors say, "What wonderful luck." The man replies, "Maybe." Later, his son breaks his leg while training one of the horses. Again, the neighbors call it terrible luck. Again, he says, "Maybe." Soon after, soldiers arrive to draft young men into war, but his injured son is spared. What appeared bad became good. What appeared good became bad. The lesson is timeless. Most people react too quickly to events. They assume they know what everything means. The Stoics understood that reality is often more complicated. That failed relationship may lead you to a better one. That rejection may redirect your life. That setback may build strength you desperately need. That obstacle may become your greatest teacher. This is why emotional control is so powerful. When everyone else is reacting, you remain steady. When everyone else is panicking, you remain thoughtful. When everyone else is overwhelmed, you remain focused. Not because you are emotionless, but because you understand that emotions are visitors, not rulers. Modern culture teaches people to obey every feeling. The Stoics taught something different. Observe your feelings, learn from them, but do not become their servant. This single principle can save years of suffering because feelings change constantly. Motivation comes and goes. Confidence rises and falls. Energy fluctuates. Mood shifts, but principles remain. Character remains. Discipline remains. A person who depends on feelings will always be inconsistent. A person who depends on principles becomes unstoppable. This is why mornings matter so much. Every morning you decide whether your day will be guided by feelings or values. Feelings say, stay comfortable. Values say grow. Feelings say quit. Values say continue. Feelings say avoid the challenge. Values say face it. The direction of your life is determined by which voice you follow most often. Years from now, you will not be defined by what you intended to do. You will be defined by what you repeatedly did. Your habits become your character becomes your destiny, and destiny is built one decision at a time. There is something else the Stoics understood that many people forget. Life is finite. One day, every alarm clock will ring for the last time. One day, every conversation will be the last conversation. One day, every opportunity will be the final opportunity. Most people avoid thinking about this reality. The Stoics embraced it, not to become fearful, but to become awake. When you remember that life is limited, trivial concerns lose their power. Petty arguments seem smaller. Meaningless distractions seem less important. Procrastination becomes harder to justify. You begin living with urgency. Not panic, urgency. You stop acting as though you have unlimited tomorrows. You start treating today as valuable. Because it is. Right now, there are people who would give anything for one more day, one more sunrise, one more chance, one more opportunity to tell someone they love them, one more opportunity to pursue a dream, one more opportunity to begin again. And here you are, alive, breathing, capable of change, capable of growth, capable of becoming more than you were yesterday. Never underestimate how powerful that is. You may feel behind. You may feel discouraged. You may feel lost. You may feel broken. But your future is not determined by where you are now. It is determined by what you choose next. The next decision, the next action, the next morning, the next moment of courage. Transformation rarely happens overnight. It happens one choice at a time, one disciplined morning at a time, one act of self-respect at a time, one promise kept at a time. And eventually, something remarkable occurs. You begin trusting yourself again. You stop seeing yourself as someone who always quits. You stop seeing yourself as someone who always delays. You stop seeing yourself as someone controlled by fear. A new identity emerges, the identity of someone who follows through, someone who stands firm, someone who keeps moving forward regardless of circumstances. That is real confidence, not loud confidence, not arrogant confidence, quiet confidence, the confidence that comes from evidence, the confidence that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself, and that confidence becomes a force that changes everything. Relationships improve, opportunities increase, stress loses its grip, challenges become manageable, not because life becomes easier, because you become stronger. So tomorrow morning when you wake up, remember this message. Before you check your phone, before you react to the world, before old habits take over, pause, take a breath, and remind yourself of who you want to become. Remind yourself that your mind belongs to you. Remind yourself that your character belongs to you. Remind yourself that your choices belong to you. Then step into the day with purpose, not perfection. Purpose, because perfection is impossible. But progress is available every single day. And if you continue choosing progress, no matter how slowly, your life will inevitably change. Years from now, you may look back at an ordinary morning and realize it was the morning everything started. The morning you stopped drifting, the morning you stopped waiting, the morning you took control, the morning you decided that your future would no longer be determined by excuses, fear, or distraction. The morning you became the author of your own life. If this message spoke to you, don't let it end here. Carry it into tomorrow morning. Carry it into your next decision. Carry it into your daily actions, because wisdom changes nothing unless it is applied. But applied wisdom can transform everything. And remember this, you do not need a new life. You need a new standard. You need a new level of discipline. You need a new level of self-respect. You need a new commitment to becoming the person you are capable of being. Start tomorrow morning. Start with one decision, then another, and one day you will wake up and realize that the life you once dreamed about is the life you are living. That is the power of taking control. That is the power of Stoic wisdom. And that is the power that already exists within you. If you're serious about mastering your mind, building discipline, and becoming emotionally unshakable, subscribe now and join thousands of people committed to living with Stoic wisdom every single day. Comment below, "I take control," if you're ready to own your mornings and transform your life. Your future self is watching the choices you make today.